You wake to a servant pulling open a wooden shutter. Cold gray light enters the chamber, followed by the sounds of a household already working. Boots on stairs, a bucket striking stone, horses shifting in the yard, and somewhere below, the crackle of a kitchen fire. You are a knight in England around the year 1380. But the first surprise is that you have not slept in shining armor. You're not lying on straw in a dungeon, and you're not waiting for a dragon. You wake in a curtained bed, in a private chamber with a fireplace and a latrine nearby. That makes you extraordinarily privileged. Most people beyond these walls have far less warmth, space, and privacy. Yet privilege does not mean freedom. Before your feet reach the floor, other people are waiting for your decisions. Your steward has accounts, tenants have disputes, your lord may send orders, your horses must be kept ready. And if war returns, the comfortable room around you can become a memory very quickly. The fire has burned low overnight. A servant feeds it split wood while another brings water in a basin. The water is cold, or if the household is feeling generous, slightly warmed. You wash your hands and face with a cloth. A full bath is possible, but it is not an automatic part of every morning. Your chamber contains more color than a ruined castle suggests today. Painted plaster and woven hangings soften bare walls and slow the draft. The bed is one of the most valuable objects in the room. Outside the curtain, privacy is limited. A servant or squire helps you dress, carries messages, looks after equipment, and learns by watching you. By the time you wake, cooks, grooms, laundresses, guards, clerks, and stable hands have already been at work. Your morning comfort is built from their labor. You pull on a linen shirt, fitted hose, leather shoes, and a woolen tunic or gown suited to the season. Fastenings, cloth quality, color, and fur trim all advertise rank. Medieval clothing is not a field of shapeless brown sacks. For someone of your status, it can be bright, tailored, and expensive. Your sword may be buckled on when formality requires it, and spurs proclaim your knightly identity. Armor stays stored unless the day demands training, a tournament, an escort, or war. Around 1380, your battle equipment is a mixture of mail, plate, leather, padding, straps, and textiles. Separate steel plates protect arms and legs. A bassinet can cover the head. Mail guards vulnerable gaps. The complete white plate suit imagined today belongs more to later centuries. You cannot jump into this equipment alone. A squire tightens points and buckles, checks movement, and makes sure a loose fastening will not become a fatal weakness. Before business comes religion. You say a short prayer in the chamber, handle a rosary, or follow words from a book of hours if you can afford one. Then you cross the courtyard toward the chapel as a bell marks the morning. For a medieval knight, faith is not a private hobby saved for one day of the week. It shapes the calendar, the language of promises, ideas about legitimate war, and the way you understand illness, victory, guilt, and death. At Mass, hierarchy is visible. The Lord's family and honored guests take the best places. Servants stand farther back while the chaplain's voice carries through candle smoke. You may sincerely believe in humility while living above almost everyone around you. You may admire saints and still prepare for violence. That contradiction is not unusual. Chivalry offers an ideal of courage, loyalty, generosity, and Christian conduct. Real knights, like real people, do not always live up to the ideal. After Mass, you may take a light breakfast, bread, ale, perhaps cheese, or yesterday's meat. Breakfast is not equally important for everyone, and custom can discourage it on fast days. The principal meal will come later, closer to midday. You sit at a table not hunched over a trench of bones. A cloth may cover the board. Servants bring food from the kitchen, pantry, and buttery. Rank determines where people sit, what they receive, and how quickly they are served. Your diet can be rich, but the church calendar matters. On fast days, meat from land animals may disappear and fish takes its place. Freshness depends on season and distance. Spices are valuable, but they are not routinely used to hide rotten food. Spoiled meat can make a knight ill just as easily as anyone else. Then comes the stable. The word knight is inseparable from the mounted warrior, and a trained warhorse is one of the most expensive assets you possess. But you probably own more than one kind of horse. A powerful mount is reserved for combat or display. A smoother horse carries you on journeys. Pack animals move baggage. Each requires fodder, shoes, shelter, tack, and skilled care. A knight is the visible point of an expensive system. You inspect an animal's legs, mouth, and hooves. A groom reports a swelling. A farrier checks a shoe. Neglect can ruin a valuable horse before an enemy ever sees it. In the yard, your squire practices mounting and controlling a lance while younger pages watch. Horsemanship is not decorative. In battle, speed, balance, and the ability to act inside noise and confusion can determine whether you break an enemy line or are thrown beneath it. The morning's exercise is less like a duel in a film and more like disciplined repetition. You ride at a wooden target, strike it with a lance, circle, and try again. You practice with sword, shield, spear, or poleaxe depending on place and period. You wrestle, build endurance, and learn to stay effective while tired. Strength matters, but timing and control matter more. An expensive sword is one tool among many. On the battlefield, a spear or lance may be more important. Armor does not turn you into a slow metal statue. Properly fitted equipment spreads weight across the body and allows surprising movement. But it is hot, exhausting, and unforgiving. Mud, fear, a wounded horse, or one bad fall can change everything. Even training is dangerous. A splintered lance, startled mount, or careless blow can break bone. Your skill must be kept sharp because knighthood is not merely a title. Society expects you to be ready for violence on behalf of a lord, a king, your household, or your own interests. Now comes the part stories skip. Paperwork. Your steward opens account rolls, Grain, rents, wages, repairs, and purchases become columns of obligation. A clerk works in Latin, French, or English. Your wealth does not sit in a pile of coins. Much of it comes from land, harvests, mills, livestock, rents, offices, and relationships. If the roof leaks, the harvest fails, or tenants cannot pay, your military status does not solve the account. People arrive with petitions. Two tenants dispute a boundary. A widow asks about rent. The reeve reports missing livestock. A carpenter wants payment. You may delegate much of this, but authority eventually points back toward you or the lord you serve. This is where privilege becomes power over other lives. Your decision can protect someone, burden them, or favor an ally. Medieval lordship is personal. Reputation travels. A knight known as fair may gain loyalty. A knight known as violent may gain obedience, but also enemies. Even if you hold land, you are not independent. You belong to a network of service. A messenger can arrive carrying a sealed letter from a greater lord. Perhaps you are summoned to escort him, sit on a commission, collect men, guard a castle, or prepare for a campaign. By the late 14th century, service is not a neat pyramid. Knights can receive wages, fees, offices, influence, and protection. Written agreements and personal loyalty bind households together. The request may sound courteous, but refusing a powerful patron can damage your future. Accepting may take you from home for months and cost more than the reward covers. This is the tension at the center of your rank. Your status depends on being useful. You must be seen at court, reliable in administration, generous in company, and effective in war. Honor is an ideal, but it is also a public reputation that has practical value. If the order concerns war, the household changes immediately. The armor chest is opened, mail is checked for broken rings, leather straps are replaced, arrows, lances, blankets, food, and horse gear are counted. A clerk calculates wages while servants search for carts. You will not ride out alone in polished armor. You need a squire, grooms, horses, baggage, and men-at-arms or archers depending on your obligation. Campaigning is movement and supply before it is battle. The glamorous image of knighthood hides an ugly calculation. A captured noble might be worth a ransom. An ordinary soldier might be killed. Villages can be burned to weaken an enemy. Disease, infection, hunger, and accidents may claim more men than heroic single combat. Perhaps you have seen a friend die from a wound that looked small. Chivalric stories make war meaningful. They do not make it clean. Near midday, the main meal draws the household into the great hall. Trestle tables are set, hands are washed, and food arrives in courses. Bread, pottage, meat or fish, vegetables, ale, and wine appear according to wealth, season, and religious rules. The hall is also a stage. Seating displays rank. Generosity builds reputation. Guests watch how well your household is ordered while servants carry dishes between crowded benches. You eat better than most people in England, but you're also being observed. A miserly table insults allies. Waste threatens the accounts. Hospitality is both virtue and politics. Your wife may supervise supplies, servants, textiles, guests, children, and estates, especially when you're absent. The fantasy knight stands alone. The real knight depends on an entire household. So what was it like to wake as a medieval knight? It was warmer, cleaner, and more comfortable than life for most people around you. You had a private bed, tailored clothing, servants, better food, trained horses, and access to law and power. You also woke inside a cage of expectations. You were expected to pray like a Christian, rule like a lord, spend like a gentleman, ride like a cavalryman, judge disputes, reward followers, obey a patron, and face violence without showing fear. Every object that advertised your freedom, sword, spurs, horse, banner, estate, also represented an obligation. And you were never self-made. A groom kept your horse sound. A squire maintained your equipment. A steward protected your income. Farmers produced the food and rent that supported your status. Craftspeople built the weapons, cloth, saddles, and walls that made knighthood visible. You did not wake in armor. You woke in a web of labor, faith, property, loyalty, and violence. The armor was only the brightest part of it.